Imagine feeling stronger, more energized, inspired and confident. That's what running does to you, even after 50. I myself am a runner. I didn't actually start running until I was 55, and I weighed about close to 30 kilos more than I weigh now. I mean, don't let age be a limiting factor in running. I mean, I have a lot of people come to me and say, you shouldn't be running, you're too old, you're going to hurt your knees, you're going to hurt your feet. You should be playing bowls or doing what old people do. Well, I'm here to tell you that running is not bad for your knees, contrary to popular urban theory. Probably in actual fact, it strengthens your knees. The problem people get with their knees is they overdo it and they do too much too soon. So I'm going to go through everything that I think would be a good start in helping you get to be running as an older person over 50. So why running? Well, there have been numerous studies on running, and they've shown that people who do a moderate amount of running can live from 3 to 7 years longer than a person who doesn't do that type of exercise. And the big benefit is because running can be difficult, ends up being a very good cardiovascular and also anaerobic exercise. So not only does running give you a lot of health benefits, I found personally with my wife and myself, it actually improved our posture quite a bit. We actually stood taller, we stood straighter, we didn't slump. It was very, very easy to walk long distances without any type of fatigue. It's actually really good for mental clarity as well, especially if when you do a longer run, you sort of get into the zone and you sort of switch off and you get this thing called the runner's high, which I guess is a bit like a dopamine hit, I guess. But anyhow, it gives you that mental clarity, and it just makes you feel better all round. So you need to work out what you want to do out of running. I mean, do you want better heart health? Do you just want to get fitter? Do you want to lose weight? You know, think of the sort of reasons that you might want to go running, and some of the reasons or excuses you might give yourself to not be running. So there is a program called Couch to 5K. If you haven't heard of that, teaches you how to build up to running your first 5 kilometers. Yeah, so when you start running, start small. Don't do what everyone else does and try and run half a marathon on the first attempt. You're going to utterly kill yourself, and then you're never going to want to do it again. You're setting yourself up for a bad experience. So start small. What I mean by small is do a shorter distance, like maybe just a couple of kilometers. Jog a little bit, walk a little bit, jog a little bit, walk a little bit. Do it in such a way that you're not panting and puffing and sound like you're about to die. That's the other mistake I find, that when people start running is they run too far and they run too fast. Running is supposed to be enjoyable. You know, when you start out, it's not a race, it's not a competition. If you're running and you're huffing and puffing and you're gasping for air, you are totally doing it wrong, and you're not going to get any benefit from it at all, because your body is going to be spending far more time recovering than actually getting the benefits from it. Take it nice and easy, go nice and slow, don't push yourself. Later on you can do these exercises called high intensity interval training, which basically is another word for sprinting. So sprint repeats, so you can say sprint 100 meters or 200 meters or 400 meters and do that say 6 or 8 or 10 times, depending on your level of fitness. And the good thing about that type of exercise, it's over quite quickly, so it doesn't take a lot of time, and you get huge benefits from that, because your body will go into a type of afterburn effect which lasts for days, and it really helps tone up your muscles. But that type of exercise needs quite a bit of time to build into. So if you're new to running, don't try and sprint straight away. You're going to injure yourself, especially if you're over 50. So you really need to build up to it. It took me a long time before I actually was able to go flat out running. And don't for a second think, as an older person, you're going to run like you see the 18-year-old athletes at the Olympics. It's not going to happen. You'll be lucky to run at half the speed they do, even for a very well-accomplished sprinter. So that's just the way it is. Younger people are far better at it. They're more flexible, they've got better muscle tone, better recovery, and that all helps with that. One thing I've noticed when I started running, the more you do, the better you get at it, and the more you get used to it. So this is the cardiovascular side of things. So if you run just once a week, I did that for maybe the first 1 or 2 years, and you hardly get any improvement at all. So because it's so far in between exercises, your body sort of develops a cardiovascular fitness, but it's not really excelling or improving. It's just sort of maintaining. So I've noticed once I started running twice a week or even 3 times a week, then your cardiovascular fitness goes up by leaps and bounds. Again, this is something you have to work into. You can't just don't just do it straight off. You're just going to injure yourself. Nothing's worse than having a injury, and I've had quite a few. Mostly, I've had a IT band issue. That's the tissue that connects the knee to the hips. My legs would start clicking after a while. Like if I ran more than say 7k, then it would start sort of clicking a bit, and it did it every time. And the problem I had with that was I was doing no strength exercise at all. So that's the other thing with running. If you plan to do any type of distance running, you have to do strength exercises with it. Don't just run and do nothing else, because you are going to give yourself an injury too. You need to do some weight training to strengthen up your legs, your hips, your glutes, all that type of thing, and all the connecting tissues and ligaments and cartilage and bone. If you do that, you'll find it far, far easier on your body. So before you start running, it's probably better to do some warm-up exercises. I'm probably not going to go into the type of exercises you can do, because there's quite a lot of opinion on the different type of things. I will probably avoid all those hardcore stretching type routines, because as older people, we're not going to be sprinting straight off. So we don't need to stretch our muscles beyond that. For me personally, I find just doing a little slow jog, or even just walking for half a kilometre, is probably warm up enough for me. So I've tried all the other exercises. I didn't see much benefit from it. It will probably be much greater benefit if you were sprinting, to be honest. So the gear, what do you need? Well, you need some running clothes, running pants, and a running top. And if you're a woman, you definitely need a sports bra. Otherwise, I know from my wife, you're going to be really uncomfortable. If you try and run with a regular bra, don't do it. It's not going to work. Also, don't run in a regular t-shirt or regular shorts. They have special clothing for running, which is actually wicking type of clothing, and it is very, very effective. So when you're running, this moisture is evaporating off your shirt as you're running, and when you stop running, your shirt will be dry in 5 minutes. Whereas if you had a regular t-shirt, you'd be wet for hours. and you could feel that cold, clingy feel on your body. Get a running type of shirt, a wicking shirt. All the popular brands make it, like Adidas and Nike and Asics and 2XU, New Balance. They all make that type of clothes. Just make sure you get one that's specifically for running, not one that's for the gym or whatever, because they just don't wick as well. The same goes for socks. You can get running socks, which are a wicking type of socks. So once your feet start sweating, they're not going to be wet and soggy inside of a shoe. That leaves the last part to shoes. So there's a lot of debate on shoes and the different types of shoes you can get. The main thing is padding and the drop. That's probably the main thing about the different types of running shoes. So the drop is the difference in height from the heel to the toe. The stack height is how much foam is in the shoes. Obviously, the higher the stack height, the more foam it is, the more comfortable it is. So there is a bit of a trade-off. So I've noticed I've ran in Hoka shoes, which are got a huge foam, and I've also run in minimal shoes, which have no foam whatsoever. Personally, I prefer the minimal shoes, but that's just me. I'm weird that way. Most people actually prefer the more foamy type of shoes. So if you're starting out running, I would strongly advise do not get zero drop shoes. If you're not used to that type of shoe, you're going to give yourself an injury as well. So let me just grab some shoes and I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, so I actually sold most of my shoes. So I do have a few pairs left. So this pair is they have a fairly padded shoe, and it's got a 8mm drop. So that means from here to here, this is 8mm higher than this side. So in actual fact, there's a bit of a heel like this. So the benefit of that is when you're running, this part of your leg here stretches. So when you're running and you're pushing, this part stretches, which is also pulls on your calf. So if you've got a shoe with a heel on it, it's much less stress on that, but it does feel probably a little more unnatural. So, and I've got a pair of Saucony trail shoes here. So these are 4mm drops, so the heel is only 4mm higher than the front. So this is getting more towards a zero drop shoe. So these are probably okay for anyone to wear straight off. Now I have a pair of zero minimal shoes, which is these, and these are zero drops. So you can see here that the height of the heel is exactly the same as the height of the toe, and these shoes have no foam whatsoever in them. I would not learn to run in these at all, because what I showed you before with the Achilles tendon and the calf muscle, this is going to actually put a lot of extra stress on that part of your leg, because instead of being lifted up, it's going to force your leg to stretch another inch or so. But once you get used to it, well, for me anyway, I really love these shoes. And then my ultimate shoe so my ultimate shoe is these sandals. So these are a little firmer. They're also zero drop, as you can see. They've got no padding whatsoever. But strangely enough, I find these very comforting to walk in, but it has taken me a long time to get used to them. When I first started with these type of shoes, I could only run maybe a few hundred meters and then give it a few days rest, run a few 100 meters more. That's how little you have to build up to these type of shoes. If you try and run on these shoes straight away, trust me, you'll be so sore the next day you'll barely be able to walk and you'll never want to run again. So yeah, don't do it. Yeah, so when you first start out, give yourself a bit of a running plan. So like I said, with the Couch to 5K plan, say a good start would be, say, to run for 20 or 30 minutes. Run for 1 minute, walk for 1 minute, run for 1 minute, and just keep going in that way. When I mean run for 1 minute, I mean jog for 1 minute, don't sprint for 1 minute. So just keep it nice and easy. The important thing I've also noticed is recovery time. That's probably just as important as the running. Don't go for a run and then go for a run the next day. Especially as an older person, recovery is actually much more important than it is for a younger person. So as a 20-year-old, you can beat your body up and go running every day, and you can recover and not be bothered by it. So me, for example, now at my age, if I do sometimes go to the gym and do strength exercises, it takes me a full 3 days to get over it. You know, because it takes me that long for my body to just heal over what I've just been pushing my body through. So I would, if you were running, I would take the next day off and do the next day again. So maybe 3 days a week at the most. So after a while, after you do the walking for 1 minute and running for 1 minute, try and increase the times that you run. So maybe run for 90 seconds and walk for 1 minute, and then build it up for running for 2 minutes and then walk for 1 minute, and then keep building up, and eventually you'll be able to run non-stop for a couple of kilometers, and then maybe 5k. If you're feeling extra motivated, you can stretch it out to 10k. And once you can run those type of distances without stopping, you'll notice that your cardiovascular system just reaches a whole new level of fitness. So you'll find doing other type of exercises to be extremely easy and not really difficult or challenging compared to running. I mean, it does take a special person to be able to push your body through that running, because especially sometimes it's uncomfortable. It's not an easy sport, that's for sure, but you do get the benefits from it. So once you can do all that type of running, it's now time to try high intensity interval training. So as I said before, that's sprinting. So generally it's sprint repeats. So it's either repeating 100 meters or repeating 200 meter sprints, maybe 8 or 10 or 12 repetitions. If you're really keen, you can do 400 and 800. They're quite a bit harder. Maybe just do 4 of those to start with. They have other things like a pyramid type of training. So you do a couple of 100s, a couple of 400s, a couple of 800s, and then a couple of 400s and a couple of 100s. So you build up and then you build back. So all these things are designed to improve your anaerobic system, vastly increases your aerobic system as well, which is your cardiovascular fitness. Now, the fun part about all this stuff is once you start getting it, you start getting really interested in running events, and there's lots of them all over the place all the time. I mean, if you're really into it, there's probably one every week somewhere around your local area. I know there is over here. So I've gone in some 5 and 10k running events.
And you know you're in trouble if you only find a left shoe later today.
Video. Take a video. I've gone in some trail events, but I think the shortest I ran was a 5 kilometer event, and the longest I did was a 28 kilometer trail event. The trail events are much more fun. They're quite a bit more social. The numbers who do trail events is much lower than, say, a road event. And to be honest, I think the reason is they're harder. trail is definitely harder than running on the road because of the hills. You've got very steep hills which are far steeper than a road. Sometimes you have to run through creeks, and then you've got the rocky terrain to handle, or sandy conditions, whereas roads very much the same the whole way through. And if there is hills, they're going to be hills that are suitable for a car to go up, so they're not going to be super steep, generally that is. So I found it fun competing in all that stuff and seeing my times get better slowly over the years, and then if you're really interested in that, you can get like a Garmin watch, which, I mean, these little Garmin watches, I've had a Garmin, I've had Polar, so I find these Garmin watches are fantastic. They track your speed, they track your heart rate, they track the elevation, your temperature. They can do all sort of predicting things like measure your fitness levels and your oxygen consumption. They even have courses on them, so you can design your own courses, and then the watch becomes like a mini Google Maps, so it'll tell you turn right here, turn left here. You can set that up on trails as well, not just on normal roads. They're not cheap though, but I've had this for a while, so I can't afford one now, but if you can get one second hand, they're well worth it. Will last for weeks on one charge. So also in this country, and I think in a lot of other countries, we have a thing called the ParkRun. So that's an event they have every Saturday here at 7 a.m. I think the time varies from country to country. And it's a 5-kilometer run, and you join up, it's all free, so you join up the website and then you get a special barcode, and then every time you run you present them the barcode, and then you get tracked on this website, so you can see all the places that you ran at, and you can see a history of all the times. So it's a great way of measuring your progress and on how much you're improving. You can see how you can compare your progress to everybody else who's also on that event, because you can see all their progress as well. And the great thing with ParkRun is you get free rewards. So after you've done 50 park runs, you get a free shirt. It's a good quality shirt too, in a certain colour. And when you've done 100, you can get another one, which is a black shirt. And then when you do 250 runs, you also get another shirt, which is a green one, which are all free. So these are good quality shirts. I'm up to about, I haven't checked for a while, but it's over 300 anyway. I've been running for almost 10 years, and I've done over 300, so I'm fairly consistent. Since I got my dog though, I have not been fairly consistent, so I only run sometimes. At the moment for me, I find as a older than 50 person, I find the high intensity is much more beneficial for me. It actually improves my fitness, so I don't need to go running for hours now, so I find the high intensity, I get almost similar benefits for just doing a 10-minute full out workout. Well, I hope this was all interesting for you, and I hope this is motivated to give you an introduction on if you're thinking about starting. And don't be worried if you're worried that you're going to be the last person, because trust me, even if you limp, you still won't be last in these events. There is always someone slower than you. So some weeks I do this park run and I just walk the dog and I just let the dog sniff and do whatever he wants, and I still don't come last. So you don't need to fear that, and nobody is there judging you, because this is not a competition, it's a fun run. So I hope that gave you some motivation to start running, and let me know what you think, and see you next video.